Hello, and welcome back to Conquering Finale. My name is Jason Lafredo, and today we're going to do another spotlight on plugins. Today we're talking about the Align Move Dynamics plugin, which I think is really important. And it's in the plugins menu, and it's in this TGTools section here. It's the very first one called Align Move Dynamics. Now, these TGTools are actually a third-party plugin set, but Finale comes with a TGTools Lite, and basically everything in this menu here is the Lite version of the TGTools. There is a professional TGTools, which I have installed on my computer, which gives you a separate menu and a whole bunch of other plugins that are available, including one in the Modify section called Align Move, which is actually very similar to the Align Move Dynamics plugin, but it has some extra functions in it. I'm actually going to talk about both of these plugins today, but I'm going to primarily focus on the Align Move Dynamics, or the free one, because I know that all of you with Finale will have that plugin. And it's a very important plugin because oftentimes you'll get yourself in situations with your dynamics like this where they're just kind of all over the place. It's very hard to get the hairpins to align precisely as you're entering them. There are things that we can do within the Smart Shape tool, which I've showed you in previous videos, to align them vertically and horizontally. But there's no way to actually do that with the dynamics and the hairpins, or with the text expressions and the hairpins, unless you use this plugin. And this is what this is designed for. So you have to make a selection of music, and I'm going to choose the Align Move Dynamics plugin, and you get this sort of very simple window. So basically what's going on here is in the right-hand section, there's three things: text expressions, hairpins, shape expressions. These are what's being aligned. So these are the elements that you can align with this plugin. Now, shape expressions, we don't usually use shape expressions anymore in Finale. It's possible to create hairpins as shape expressions. It's a weird thing that you may do in some odd circumstances, but generally speaking, there's not a lot of shape expressions in the default file anyway. So whether or not this is checked or not is somewhat irrelevant right now. But obviously, text expressions and hairpins are very relevant. And if you want to only align the hairpins, you can just check or uncheck text expressions, or vice versa. So you have some flexibility as to if you want to align all of them or just one of them. Usually you want to align both of them, because that's really the main purpose of this plugin, is to align all of your dynamics, which include text expressions and hairpins. All right, so that's what's going on the right. I'll talk about the move vertically in a second. The options on the left have to do with how you're going to align them. And there's four options: to nearest element, to farthest element, to average distance, and set to value. With the first three, basically what you're doing is the plugin is going to calculate how far away each element is from the bottom of the staff in this case, and then align it either to an average distance of all of the elements within the selection, or align it to the farthest element within the selection, or the nearest element within the selection. So depending on which one you choose, you're going to get different results. 8 times out of 10, you probably want to choose to average distance, and just having it set up like this and pressing go will do just that. And now you'll see that all of my dynamics are nicely aligned vertically in a row, which is exactly what you want to do. If I were to choose to farthest this element here, you'll probably notice that this hairpin that I'm circling with my mouse is really the farthest element from the bottom of the staff line. So it's going to take all the other elements and align it to that position, just like that. Or to nearest element, and I believe this hairpin here is the nearest, as in closest to the staff line, and it will align them all to that point. So sometimes you do have to be careful, because the result may be that in this case, aligning to nearest is going to cause a conflict between the hairpin here and the slur. So sometimes you have to kind of choose wisely as to which one you want. Again, most of the time, to average distance is going to be the way to go. Now there's also a set to value. And with this option checked, it's going to look at this value here for the move vertically. And if you put in a 0 here, it's not going to put the elements right up against the bottom staff line. In fact, I'll show you. It'll put it really close, but it will never allow you to cross into the staff lines, or even get that close to it. I don't know if that's a predetermined distance or something, but that's basically what the 0 value is. And you can't actually, let's undo this, you can't actually go positive above that. So positive numbers will go up, negative will go down. If I try to put like positive 0.5 set to value, it's actually going to, oops, you do have to have something selected. it's going to take it to that same place. So there's sort of like an upper limit as to how close to the staff this plugin will allow you to get. However, using negative values will send these elements further away. So if I were to do something like negative 0.5, it's going to send it really far away from the staff, just like that, way down there. Obviously, you wouldn't want to use a value that high, but maybe something like 0.15 would be a little bit better. Even that's a little bit far, but that definitely works. And again, 0 just brings it back to sort of, again, it will never cross into the staff line. Incidentally, at the bottom of the window here, you have this defaults button. So no matter what changes you make here, let's put this negative 0.5, choose nearest. No matter what you have set up here, if you hit defaults, it will take it back to the factory settings for this plugin, which is set up exactly like this. Everything's checked, 0 to average distance is selected. So that's the set to value. Basically, this move vertically becomes an absolute value. Again, sort of referencing a point that I'm not so sure about, but a point that's definitely below the staff, but not conflicting with the staff. You can use this move vertically value with the other options too. So if you were to choose to average distance and then also add a negative move vertical value here, let's say 0.1, what it's going to do is align them to the average distance that they are currently, and then add negative 1.1 inches to that value, so it will get a little bit lower than where it would have been had this been 0 with to average distance selected, if that makes sense. You can do the same thing with to farthest element. So now it's going to first align to the farthest element and then add this move vertical value, which is going to make it even lower in this particular case. So with the first 3 options, the move vertically is more relative as opposed to the set to value, which is absolute. And interestingly, if you choose, like, let's say I'm going to do this to average distance negative 0.05, right? So it's going to put it in that position. I can run this plugin again with this negative 0.05 value here, and you can see it will just keep creeping downward. So that's actually a nifty thing to do as well. You can do the same thing to a degree with positive values. Now that it's pretty low, I can go up 0.05 inches incrementally until it gets to that point where it's not going to allow me to go any higher, and then it just stops, right? So there's definitely a few ways to use this, to use that move vertically value to your advantage to creep the elements upwards or downwards. Now, there's just a couple things to be aware of with this plugin. The first is that when you select measures on multiple systems, it will not consider the systems separately. So if you look at this violin 1 part, it's basically a copy of it, except what I've done is I've taken this hairpin and made it really a lot lower. So if I were to go and try that line to farthest element now, it's going to align not only this system's dynamics to that value, but also this one, even though that hairpin wasn't quite as low on this system. So again, it doesn't consider systems individually, it considers the entire selection. It will, however, if you select multiple staffs, either on the same system or with multiple systems, it will consider each staff individually. So now if I do something like to farthest distance here, all of the distances for the violin 1, 2, viola, and cello are going to be set according to violin 1, 2, viola, and cello. So if I do this now, we're not setting it all to one value. We're setting it to the farthest element for violin 1, farthest element for violin 2, viola, and cello, etc. So again, it will consider staffs independently. It just won't consider systems independently. This will also work with dynamics above the staff too. So you may run into this with vocal dynamics. So I've got my soprano part here with all their dynamics all kind of out of place. And if I go here and choose to farthest distance, now the farthest distance is actually the other way. So it's actually upwards instead of downwards. So it should align to this last hairpin there, just like that. Again, you could do the same thing with average distance or however you want to do this. So we'll consider above dynamics as well. Another thing to be aware of is that it becomes very important to know where your dynamics are attached. This happens sometimes in piano music where you have the dynamics between the staffs. If you're not careful, it's very easy to get a hairpin attached to the wrong staff. So if you look at this measure here, if I just click on this, you'll see my attachment points are to the top measure there, but this one, my attachment points are towards the bottom. So if I try to run this plugin here and go to average distance, it's Oops, I got to select all these measures there. There we go. Oops. Helps to hold down Shift and not Caps Lock. Can't see what I'm doing here. And select to average distance. You'll see that it will move all of the dynamics except this one, which is now not in line with these other ones. That's because this particular dynamic is attached to this staff, so it's not considering this as part of the dynamics to align. So you do have to be careful about your attachment. I mean, you should always be careful about these attachments anyway, but this is just a further reason to be cautious with it. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out is that with this plugin, it will actually move some elements that are not dynamics that are in the expressions. So I've got this just set up here, and if I try to do average distance here, you'll see that it's going to kind of move these a little bit relative to the way the dynamics are moved. So if you have other text blocks or other text expressions attached to the measure, you do have to be careful that sometimes they will move. And in this version of the plugin, there's actually no way to avoid that. Here's the shape expressions, by the way. These are just a couple that come with Finale, just to show you that they will actually align to a certain degree as well. And then finally, the other thing to consider is that you can do this either in score or in your parts. However, if you do it in a part, again, well, first of all, the measures could always be distributed differently. So if you were to do it here where you have measures 1 through 5, whereas opposed to in the score you had measures 1 through 4 on the system, your results will be different. In other words, it will align all of these dynamics. The other thing to be aware of is that when you do it in a part, it will basically unlink everything because, again, you have to move everything. So it's sort of moving and unlinking at the same time. So this is absolutely useful sometimes when you're dealing with parts, particularly when you're dealing with linked parts that have transpositions where the line of the dynamics may need to be lower or higher than a concert score. So yeah, it can be done in parts. You just kind of have to be aware of what's going on. And you can see, obviously, when you do it in a part, it will not align it in the score. So sometimes I think it's probably better to do the alignments within the score first, and then if you need to make adjustments to the parts, you can do that later. And finally, here's the most magical thing about this. A lot of people aren't even aware of this, but it is possible to access these alignments with a keyboard shortcut without even going into the TGTools Align Move Dynamics window. And in order to do this, you have to have a keyboard that has a number pad. This will not work on a laptop without a number pad, unfortunately. I was looking for an alternate for it, but I couldn't find the alternate keystrokes on a Mac laptop, at least. Maybe it's possible on a Windows laptop. But there's 3 keystroke combinations for this. On a Mac, it's Option Command, and then the asterisk key, or the multiplication key in the number pad will align everything. I think that does it to average distance, or is it farthest distance? It looks like it's farthest distance, right? So that's Option Command multiplication key. Just undo that. The Option Command minus key will align to farthest distance and then subtract a certain value below that as well. And then undo. And then Option Command plus, again, all from the number key, will align to farthest distance and then add a vertical move upwards. Now, the brilliant thing about this is that once everything is aligned, you can use the minus and plus buttons, again, from the number pad with Option and Command to move these dynamics up and downwards as you need to. So you can go, this is really, really super handy. Once you have it aligned, you can just use that keyboard combo and put them exactly where they need to go. So really, really cool keyboard shortcuts. Again, it's Option Command multiplication, minus, and addition or plus on the number pad only. All right, so that's pretty much all of the TGTools Align Move Dynamics plugin. It's really, really handy. I really recommend you kind of get used to using that because, again, it just makes this whole process just so much easier, particularly with those shortcuts. You can just kind of get really good results very quickly, and you'll be happy about that. Let's start talking about the full version of this in the TGTools menu, and in the description of the video I'll put a link to the TGTools website so that you can get these plugins as well. There's some really great plugins here, but we're going to look at one called, in the Modify section, called Align Move. And the first tab of it looks very similar to the Align Move Dynamics plugin that comes with Finale. You have nearest, farthest, average set to value, your move vertical value. The one thing that it does add is the custom smart shapes, which is actually really handy if you happen to do things with, I think I have it in here somewhere. There they are. If you happen to do things with like pedal markings for pianos. So now using this the full version of this TGTools Align Move, we can actually change custom smart shapes as well, and it will put all of these in line. It won't fix the connections, so those you'll have to move manually right and left. You can kind of see that they're not quite connecting yet. There you are. But you'll see that they are perfectly aligned. So this is really, really handy, particularly if you're doing stuff with pedal markings for pianos. All right. So again, this works pretty much the same way as the other plugin, but there's a lot of other things here that will help specify what can be done with this plugin. So just let's take a look at some of these other tabs. We have the What tab. And I'm not going to demonstrate all of this, but I will kind of point out what's here. So in the What tab, you have a little bit more control over parsing out which elements to actually align. So you can choose to align what's below the staff and what's above the staff, or if you have this unchecked, it will only align what's below the staff, or you can do both. And you can align them above and below separately. That's probably what you want to do. You can also choose to align only the dynamic text expressions. So remember from the other one where you're actually moving other expressions, if you have this checked, it will only move the dynamics. You also have the option to adjust other expressions appropriately. Actually, I believe if you uncheck this, you can move the dynamics without affecting those other expressions like I did over here. But I believe with if you have this unchecked as well, align only dynamical text expressions. So now I should align both. Yeah, so there you go. So now you can actually align these other expressions as well. So there's a bunch of different choices and options to do in this What section. In the Positioning section, this will let you parse out a little bit more of what to consider. Now, just because you're considering the hairpins and considering the node attached expressions or not, doesn't mean you are or not aligning them. So there's a difference between what it is you're aligning and what it is you're considering. So if you uncheck consider hairpins, then it's not going to check the distance of the hairpins. It'll still move the hairpins to match with where the text expressions are, for example. But again, this is just getting into fine details about what it considers in the calculation, when you do stuff like align to average distance or farthest or nearest element, right? So that's what's going on there. You can consider hairpins, you can consider node attached expressions, you can even consider measure attached expressions, which would be things like tempos and everything. And then consider them only if there are no node attached ones. There's just a lot of different options going on here. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, and then we'll go into the More section. And in the More section, there's some sort of advanced options here. You can see this option, avoid collisions with staff lines. In the regular version, or in the light version of this plugin, this is sort of frozen to checked. So eventually, that's what's happening, where it's not allowing the expressions and hairpins to get into the staff. But if you uncheck this, you could theoretically move your dynamics into the staff if you really wanted to. And we do have the option to align each system independently. So unlike the light version of this plugin, where it will consider all the systems in one pass, checking this option will actually consider each system independently, which is really handy. And you even have this option to restart the alignment after a certain number of measures without dynamics, which is really handy. Maybe you have a passage of 32 measures and there's dynamics in the first 5 or 6 measures that need to be aligned, but then there's no dynamics for another 12 measures, and then you have more dynamics that need to be aligned independently of those first ones. So this is actually a nifty little feature as well. And there's even a way to parse out which fonts you want to align. You can just enter the name of the font here, and it will align those fonts as well. These are actually music fonts, rather. So if you have different music fonts in the selection, that's what will happen there. And in the special section, we have a few options here. Vertical hairpin adjustment. So this will, if you make an alignment thing here, but also have an additional vertical hairpin adjustment, this will just move the hairpins an additional amount that you want. This may be handy if your fonts are a little weird and they're not quite lining up, the center points are not quite lining up. Maybe put a small value in here to make a minute adjustment to the exact position that the hairpins are aligning to the text expressions. This is how you would do that. So this can be negative or positive. There's an option to convert articulation dynamics to text expressions. This is sort of a rare case if you ever come across a file where somebody has put in dynamics as articulations. This will actually convert those into expressions so that they can then be aligned. And then this is a nifty little thing. Straighten smart shapes only. Do not align anything. So there is a way with your hairpins. Let me just take a second to do this because I think this is worth mentioning. There is a way in your hairpins so to make them not horizontal. If you deselect this option here, then we have the ability to actually angle these hairpins. We can do that one with this one here, make horizontal. So we can actually angle our hairpins. Now, if we wanted to reset this, we could use this TGTools Modify Align Move plugin. Just this option. Oops, sorry, it's in the special, straighten smart shapes only. And when you do select this, it's going to ignore everything else in the plugin. So this is sort of a specialty item, and you press go, and now all of your hairpins will straighten out. So that's really handy if you've got a whole mess of these hairpins that got angled or something. You can undo it in one fell swoop. And finally, this version of the plugin does actually have a little bit of stuff that you can do with the horizontal alignment of dynamics, which is really, really neat. So let me see if I have something set up here. Actually, let's do it over here. If these expressions get a little bit, out of place horizontally, we can use this plugin to kind of snap them back into place. Oops, there we go. Again, actually, let's set to defaults again. Go back to horizontal, and I don't know. Let's check that. I don't think this positive value here is very good. So let's make that negative 0.05. And what should happen is that the piano marking, which is now way off to the left here, should actually come back to the right a little bit. I do want it to align what's above the staff here. And let's see if that works. There you go. So there is a little bit of horizontal adjustment that can be done with this pro version of the plugin if you set this up correctly. And there's an option to not move it if it's farther than a certain amount, just in case it, if you did something intentionally and you don't want to move it. And also the possibility of adjusting nearby expressions appropriately. So there's a lot of options in this particular pro version of the Align Move Dynamics, and you can really get into the nitty-gritty of a lot of different options. But as I said before, most of the time this TGTools Align Move Dynamics that exists built into the program, 9 times out of 10, that's pretty much all you're going to need. But the pro version has a lot of other nifty things as well. So yeah, so that is the TGTools Align Move Dynamics and the full TGTools Align Move plugin. All in one video for you, so I hope this has been helpful. Again, it's really powerful. It takes care of a lot of these alignment problems very quickly. So definitely know it, definitely get used to using it, and you'll be much happier in using Finale. So yeah, that's it for now. That's another spotlight on plugins. I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And as usual, I will see you soon on the next video.